Hey there. Last year, I wrote an essay about the unprecedented wildfire seasons we're having. And considering what's happening in Los Angeles right now, I thought I would take that essay into video format so I can share some of the learnings I got interviewing one of my friends who is an ex-wildfire incident commander. We reflected on what had happened in 2023 and 2024 when it comes to wildfires in Canada. Last year's cool and wet weather gave us a false sense of hope that this year wouldn't be a bad one. However, in a matter of weeks, we went from virtually no fires in British Columbia to 484 active fires, 192 of them that were considered out of control. And at the time of recording this, January 14th, 2025, there are over 160,000 square kilometers of wildfires burning in the Los Angeles County, with containment under 20%. So let's dive into wildfire incident management. In the world of wildfires, there is little we can do to prevent them. The attack surface is unfathomably large, the climate is changing, and the threat is, by definition, wild and untamable. We try to prevent them with education, fire bans, and proactive maintenance, but at the end of the day, the unsung heroes of wildfires accept the inevitable and focus on rapid detection and responsive capabilities. Detection is one of the most important tools with wildfires. Detecting wildfires early is one of the most important capabilities we have in preventing them from becoming out of control. Fire lookout towers have been used for well over 100 years, but visual range limitations and the growing challenge of paying someone to stay in a tower all summer have forced services to explore better solutions. As it turns out, lightning accounts for about 60% of wildfire ignitions in British Columbia, with the remaining 40% on us. And tracking lightning strikes is one of the main tools for catching wildfires early. Lightning is fairly easy to detect from afar because it emits radio waves, and wildfire services triangulate the lightning signal to identify a strike zone and commence a reconnaissance flyover the next day. That's for every lightning strike, but not every fire gets addressed. Last year, I was riding my adventure bike in the backcountry and found myself in a post-apocalyptic wasteland surrounded by smoke and fire, yet not a water bomber or firefighter in sight. When I asked my friend about this, he chuckled and explained that the wildfire service will never have enough resources to address all fires and will generally let fires burn unabated until people, property, or infrastructure are at risk. He continued by sharing that the wildfire service will surveil and track all fires and are in constant communication with the local emergency management groups. They'll keep a risk register tracking each fire's behavior, terrain, vegetation, weather conditions, and proximity to people, property, and infrastructure. But that may be it. Now, very similar to incident response, once you've identified a problem, you need to contain it. And with wildfires, when containment and eradication efforts are merited, they have several tools they can deploy, albeit of limited supply. Typically, they will start with a small group to provide additional surveillance and initial containment efforts. These brave souls arrive on foot or by parachute with chainsaws and shovels in hand. These frontline firefighters are charged with reporting on ground conditions, preparing helicopter landing zones, and minimizing the blast radius by creating fire breaks. Next, on to eradication. If the fire is deemed out of control and people, property, and infrastructure are at risk, the wildfire service can call in air support. While most are familiar with water bombers, few are aware of the logistics behind them. In a fire mission, water bombers are not the only aircraft flying in the less than ideal conditions. To manage safety, the airspace is divided vertically into 3 or 4 operational zones. At the highest altitude zone is the commander's aircraft. This aircraft is equipped with various sensors and cameras and provide overwatch of the fire, the airspace management, and plans the bombing runs. The middle altitude is the staging zone, where bird dogs and water bombers queue for their bombing runs. Bird dogs are fast, maneuverable planes or jets that fly in front of the larger, less maneuverable water bombers. They help the water bombers line up their run and signal where the bomber needs to drop their payload through a stream of smoke. The lower altitudes are where the action happens, but they are also the most dangerous due to fire, heat, and smoke. Thus, water bombers will only enter this zone with the guidance of a bird dog, perform their bombing run, and then ascend and exit the operating area to reload. Water bombers are capable of covering a large swath of land with an incredible amount of water or fire retardant depending on whether the commander is trying to contain or eradicate the fire. And of course, the costs. If helicopters are used, they operate at the lowest altitudes and provide tactical water drops in small areas. Their advantage is maneuverability and ability to collect water from local supplies, like in this guy's pool. But it doesn't always work as planned. And sadly, at the time of this video, Los Angeles is burning, and tens of thousands of people are displaced, billions of dollars of property damage, and the fires are continuing to burn. And just like last summer in Jasper, Alberta, Canada, An all too common change in the wind causes fires to grow and change direction. And the embattled wildfire fighters of Los Angeles right now are overrun and overworked and have had to manage their resources accordingly. The indiscriminate destructiveness of wildfires cannot be understated, particularly when it comes to people's homes and livelihoods. However, it is no match for the tenacity of our species to rebuild, and rebuild we will. But recovering from catastrophic wildfire damage involves not just rebuilding the homes and buildings lost, but also the infrastructure that supports those homes and communities. In many cases, this means re-electrifying the city, rerunning telecommunications, and sometimes even laying new water and sewer systems. This takes time, and affected cities need to be pragmatic about what they recover first to ensure their citizens can regain some sense of normalcy. So that was my quick 101 on wildfire management. In part 2 of this video, we're going to continue the conversation and explore the parallels with cyber incident response, and if there are any lessons learned cybersecurity people can take from the wildfire service.